but better light. So it's okay.
There you go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Leadership from the Heart series. Myself, Renee Funk, and co-hosted by my dear friend, hi, Miss Elizabeth Riley.
Hi there. And we are so excited. Michael, you are here with us. Well, you're in New York, but you're here with us.
I'm here.
Michael
Valdes. First of all, thank you for inviting me on the show. And also, I love the title. Leadership from the Heart is really what it's all about, isn't it? It's just the idea of we're all doing this together. You know, I know we're going to be talking about a lot of global stuff, but the whole world is dealing with this at the same time. And it's like, when can we ever say that? So I love the Leadership from the Heart because it encompasses it all.
Oh,
bless you for doing this show. It's amazing.
We're just honored to have you come on, and I have to say, we had shareholder summit last week, right?
Yes.
In the cloud, and that was epic. I was sitting there at my computer and yelling across the house to my husband Jeff, saying, "Oh my gosh, the energy that Michael Valdes is bringing in, he is delivering it. You're a ball of energy, and I love it."
So my neighbors must have hated me because that was just me in my living room. Because imagine if we were actually on stage together.
So funny. We just threw you into shareholders. You're like, welcome, and we're just trying to fire. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I did my own presentation at shareholders. I had to do a board member meeting, and I think I ran like 3 breakouts. So it was like, welcome.
Yeah, we're not messing around here. You're coming on, you're coming and adding value. So it was super fun. But Renee and I talked about that afterwards, and oh my gosh, your energy, and we were just smiling. We're like, oh, this is going to be exciting. And so your experience and your background and your knowledge, we can't wait for you to share today.
Oh, I'm happy to. I'd love to
dive in and share with everyone all the details. Tell us about yourself, Michael.
Absolutely. So first, I'm so happy to be here with you guys. So I have been in real estate for a long time. I came over to EXP. I was senior vice president of Realogy, which is not a consumer-facing brand. So for your listeners that don't know, it's Realogy owns several of the larger brands that we all know, which include Sotheby's, Coldwell Banker, Century 21, ERA, Better Homes and Garden, and Corcoran. And so I had the privilege of seeing the global expansion for all of those brands. So collectively, it was 113 countries, and it was a craziness. So I was traveling literally about 200 days a year. And so that's a little bit different. It's really weird right now because in 25 years, because then I had 10 years of banking prior to that, in 25 years, I have never been grounded for more than a week. So it is so bizarre for me to really be grounded for now 2 months. It actually, I actually have this invited status from American Airlines. And so I had them call me. And so they say, by the way, your status is confirmed until the next year. It was just like, thank God. And so, and it's like, what would you, where's your first trip going to? And, they were trying to reassure me with everything. So it was really weird. It's just like not being in the air is weird for me. But then they missed me. I know. And so it was the idea of now coming in and really learning about the EXP platform. So I had been talking to Glenn Sanford and Jason Gessing and Jeff Whiteside for, I'd say, probably about 4 months or so, probably a little more. And so we were doing the due diligence on both sides. Everybody was really, let's go see if this is working, because I came from a franchise model. This isn't. It was a very different model for me for what was going to be an international play. And so we kept sort of like doing the tests and meeting people. And I met with all senior leadership, and then I met with the entire board. And then there was a board member that lives here in New York, Randall Miles, who has been so kind. And so then we met and we had a really great chat and a really great meeting. And so everything just fit. And everyone that I had met with was really that sense of what your title embodies, of really coming from the heart. And it was, for me, such a great, great thing that every time I spoke to somebody, I felt more comfortable. And literally the day one that I jumped in, it was, to your point, Elizabeth, it was just, let's throw them right in. And it was just that whole idea that everyone just was so full of love. And it felt like I'd been here forever.
Well, I will say we did throw you right in, and you just have shown up in a big way in such a short amount of time. And there's so much excitement with our company anyway, and the things that we're doing in Verbella and the shareholders, like 9,500 unique visitors for an online virtual shareholders meeting is unbelievable. And yeah, it's just so much energy and excitement right now. And so I think it's perfect time for you to be here. And with all the talk about global and what's to come, I mean, you've got a big opportunity in front of you. And I always love stuff like that. It's like, oh my gosh, what can I do with this?
It's a big opportunity and a big responsibility, because what I did was that I called the 40 leaders in this organization, including the two of you, and really sort of said, you're the ones that built this. I'm coming to your house and I'm the guest. And it was really just wanting to understand that I'm respecting the culture you built, and I want to build upon that. And this is a partnership. There are 29,000 ambassadors of this brand that know the story a lot better than I do. And this is really where our assets are and where our strength is and where we're unstoppable. And the idea of coming in and taking this message to the masses and across the globe, this is an exciting thing. And we had a great start. We have a great start. We have over 1,000 agents in Canada. We're in the UK. We're in Australia. We're in key areas around the globe already. And that's just going to be a great footprint to grow from and a great foundation.
So what you're explaining is what we know and love, and that's servant leadership. And Michael, from day one, you have come in and just really fulfilled that in more ways than we can even express. What is one of your guidance points that you would give to leaders on making sure that they continue to stay in that servant leadership role as their business grows?
I think it's what all of you are doing. It's communication. It is the idea of checking in. The people are our assets. We don't make a cent without the folks that we have, and they are the true ambassadors. We're in the ultimate people business, and it's all about people. It's all about relationships. Profit comes based on good relationships. So we really need to make sure that we come from that level of humility and service. And, and I really, I've done a podcast that I do as well that was really on global luxury. And so I really interviewed, the focus was on a global space. And so I just interviewed Glenn yesterday, and it'll come out next week. And, but it was like, I've had people in from China, from Greece, from Japan. And it's the idea that the whole world is a community. And the idea that for this brand, the idea of what EXP World became, which was really a place for everyone to come together, is really how I'm seeing the opportunity of this global expansion, of really sort of seeing the opportunity. I just spoke to a prospect in Mexico right before I jumped on your show. And so we were talking about the idea that this model empowers people. This model empowers people because it puts the idea of generation of wealth available to the individual by service. And so that is such a beautiful message. And that's really the message where you start sort of looking at it and start sort of thinking, what's your commission structure? What's your revenue split? It's sort of like, this is the idea that everything is there in such a beautiful manner. And, we'll get to it and we'll talk about it. But the idea that this is the platform of really coming in and being able to serve your community in such a beautiful way with an incredible tool for them to build service through service and build wealth through service is a beautiful message to give. And that translates in any language.
You had mentioned Randall Miles, who we all love. Randall. Randall was on the show. He's a great guy. He was on the show a few weeks ago, and one of the things I remember most about Randall is the first time we met, which was at a shareholder summit, and I was so intrigued by Randall's opinion and thoughts around how owners act differently. And that when you are a realtor, oftentimes there can be a gap or an area completely missing, that there's no ownership into that process. And I've always held that in my heart of how do owners act, because we're owners in this awesome, crazy ride that we're on, right?
Yes. And the morality compass changes when you're an owner.
Yeah.
Right? You're not in it for yourself. You're in it for the greater good, because you are an owner of this company. You're a shareholder. You want the success of the company, and you're part of that story. And so that is an important sort of perspective. And Randall is a very smart man, and that is a great perspective to look at.
He's amazing.
That's the fun part of this too. It's the journey, and it's doing something that hasn't been done before. And that was one of the things that really attracted me to EXP early on. Also the people, we're talking about the people. I always say people join people, and our leadership is so unique in that they do lead from the heart. They are really focused on the agents and creating. It's not about the number, it's a business, yes, but that's not the priority. The priority is the people. And when you start creating an environment around that, the culture is indescribable. I try to explain it to people. I was trying to explain to somebody yesterday that the opportunities you have and the collaboration you have and the friendships and the relationships you have are priceless. And so being a part of this journey, and with you coming on board, I mean, it's amazing where you came from. You have a very solid background. You have a very strong reputation at Realogy. I mean, that is an amazing company. And for you to oversee the global side of that company is a huge undertaking in itself. And for you to see the opportunity and, hey, I want to be a part of something different and something unique, that's exciting. That we're attracting great people that understand the opportunity, but understand the culture, which makes us even better.
Yes. And it was important for me to really, it felt like a family. It felt like a family from day one. And it was such an easy transition for me. I mean, everybody was just so helpful, and they still are, and everyone sort of jumps in, and it's so funny. Just, I start, my hours are quite long because I'm looking at different time zones. So I usually start around 7 in the morning and end around 9 at the evening now. But I'm so excited about all the opportunities because I'm telling the story. But at the same time, I just keep my office open. And so, I have several screens that I'm looking at it at once. So if I'm on the phone, I'll just sort of, I'll forget to sort of set my avatar away, and people will just sort of stroll into my office because I want that. I want that atmosphere. I just want the idea that everyone knows that my door is open, because I feel that with every other person that works in this organization. It is just the idea that everyone's door is open from Glenn to Jason on down. And it is that sense of we are here to help everyone. And that is a beautiful message that I'm so glad to be a part of.
You're going to have an interesting perspective looking at the timeline of when you came on board with EXP. To and how that aligns with the pandemic we're experiencing and the quarantine element, because you went from a model that was not remote. It was, obviously dependent on brick and mortar and franchise. And then you're diving right in, literally into a fully remote world. I am really curious. Share with us, what have you learned already about operating remotely in a virtual cloud-based business?
Here's what's really interesting to me. That's a great question. For me, it was one of the reasons that I really wanted to make the move, was because I believe that EXP is the only company out there that actually has a viable solution to work remotely. And this is the solution of EXP World is not something that happened in the last year. This technology is over 10 years old. So this is well developed. I was talking to Glenn about this yesterday. It's just the idea that, it's not something that we created because of a response to the pandemic. We created 10 years ago. And now it's the idea that this is the most viable solution for anyone to really conduct business. And we're talking about the Virbela technology before. And it's the fact that other industries are coming into this, the entertainment industry, the finance industry, the insurance industry. They're now coming to Virbela because they actually see this as a viable platform to conduct business. And so I have not stopped. everyone that I'm talking to seeing the value of this now. It starts with what is in fact the platform, the idea of what this is, and then add on top of that an incredible business model. And it really is no reason why, it's actually no excuse why it was the top and fastest growing company last year. It makes sense. It makes sense to have an 80% growth. The idea that it's now in the 12 years plus that it's been going on, for now the Real Deal to name it the third largest real estate company in the world. It's sort of like it's sort of like that's really excitement.
Well, and like Glenn said, we were prepared. Just to your point, we didn't have to spend time, resources, money, and be reactive, right? We were very proactive for the last 10 years and evolving and emerging and building. And so it's been really cool to be a part of, but also be able to look back and say, Glenn, wow, look at what you built. And now we have our sights on global and have you on board. So, I love Renee's question. My question is, what's been the most surprising to you?
That's a good question. What has been the most surprising? It's the fact that I keep crashing my avatar into my glass wall.
Have you tried running yet? Running burns calories.
Like I just do the go-to and I let the little monster go on its own. But it's but it's teasing. It's what I actually have found is how easy people are receptive to the story. And I actually found the story to be very compelling, which is why I'm here after 15 years.
Yeah.
And to really sort of be able to tell that story, and people who have had very long histories with their own brand are sitting and listening. And people are just sort of saying, we want this. We want in. How quickly can we do it? And I'm like, well, hold on. I have to do a few other things beforehand. We got to set up a corporation. We got to sort of get in there. And so I really want to have the responsibility of growing this brand in a way that will make the greatest impact for the brand, for the people that we'd be serving, and for the overall message. And so those things are really three things that are very important to me. And that message is going to grow rather organically. There are some countries that we're speaking to that maybe were not like my top three picks, but they've actually become that because everyone is so excited about it and the messaging is going to be very strong. There's one country in particular that we have spoken to 3 top brokers that all of them love our model. And all 3 have verbally agreed to come over. And so we're working on that right now. And I'm teasing the audience with it, but it would actually be a really large number of agents that would come over. And it's going to be it'll be 4 digits. And so it will be a great story to tell from the start.
So wow. I'm sitting here with my jaw on the floor thinking about this and going back. So I've been at the company 5 years now, Michael. When yes. I joined, there were 400 agents nationally.
Wow.
And I didn't understand Glenn's vision. I don't think many people understand Glenn's vision. How do you really see that? You know, yeah. He thought of it way back when. And I was just like, I just want to get back to the basics and just love on the people and love on my clients. And I just thought so small. Yeah. And now to sit here 5 years later, we're talking almost 30,000 agents yeah. in multiple countries. I never, ever saw that coming. And I'm giddy because of people like Glenn, of people like you that have the knowledge and the vision, and people are taking notice. Other countries are like, well, this is really cool. And I think it might have been, the pandemic was probably a big eye opener as well, because Absolutely. Nobody ever expected this. You know, Renee and I talk about all the time, this isn't just an Austin, Texas thing. This isn't a Florida thing. This is a global situation, and everybody's having to be reactionary. And so I think that actually lends to our story, and sure. the fact that we're doing it correctly and we're doing it authentically and responsibly. Yes. I think it's going to make it much more easier for you and our company to expand in a quicker way than what we had anticipated before.
I agree with you. And my prediction is that we'll have a much larger number of agents outside the United States than inside.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's huge.
You
Do we
heard
get a
it here
time?
first.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm
Heard
going to
it
put you
here
on the
first.
spot now. Any time frame there,
I'm
Michael?
not going to be that dumb.
Yeah.
I had to ask. I had to ask.
Listen,
Fair
I
enough.
have a lot of energy, and I have a lot of very aggressive growth plans, which is making the senior leadership very happy and nervous at the same time.
Right.
It depends on who you talk to.
But we
But
feel
David.
it. I mean, that goes back to what we were saying before is the energy. I mean, you come to us and you just step right into, there's something here that has changed my life and my family's life. And it is a feeling. It is the love. It is the connections. It's the people. When someone says, well, who's your coach? Well, I have a whole lot of coaches. They're all my network, all my tribe that pour into me. And then the promise we have is that we'll continue to cascade that out and pour into others. And that's how all this works.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. And that's why this has worked. That's why this is the fastest growing real estate company in America. That's why there's so much interest in this. That's why the stock price is where it is. That's why there's zero debt on this company, because everything works. You're coming from a place of humble service, and you're coming with a message that is changing people's lives. And that is so strong because that is unstoppable.
What's one of the things that you foresee as far as shifts in the way the real estate business will be performed in the next 12, 24 months? And you look at
Renee, I'm sorry, I was missing part of it. The connection's a little choppy. Can you repeat that?
Okay. Yep, sure can. What are some of your thoughts around where the real estate industry as a whole might be going, kind of in a post-COVID world, looking at 12, 24 months?
Yeah.
Everyone's in quarantine now and they're starting to come out. But what does it look like?
That's really interesting because I was starting to, in my old firm, really start getting a lot of that market knowledge. And so what we were doing was actually calling, because there was different phases of the pandemic around the globe. A lot of the clients in Asia, for example, were sort of seeing the other side of this. And so we had a lot of representation in mainland China, for example. And there was one of the larger offices there that were really looking at how this was looking at differently. And they had gone through SARS also 10 years prior. So they had a bit of experience in this. And what was interesting was that they saw that a lot of people after the pandemic realized that they were sitting at home and that, their home was just not the place that they were expecting to spend 24 hours in. And so it was a place that they felt, they needed more space, or they needed a different space. And so it was interesting where people's actions changed to and their behaviors changed. So they didn't realize that they needed a home office. They didn't realize that when the children are around, that they need their own space so that you can go and work. And so behavioral things change. What's also interesting is on the commercial side, where now you're sort of realizing a lot of people that have been either laid off or furloughed or working from home, and sort of realizing that, do we really need that many people on our work staff? Do we really need this, we're being very effective working from home for the most part. We're still communicating, we're still figuring things out. How does the commercial space look like? If there's going to be social distancing rules, how does that look like? If we're going to need to sort of have cubicles that are going to be spaced further apart, what does that look like? So you're going to need to have more space and less people. How does that math work? So your per person productivity now has to be doubled. And so where you start looking at this, you start looking at what is essential. How can this be efficient remotely? And so, you start looking at platforms like an EXP or a Verbella that can provide this so seamlessly that it's not just the real estate industry. As I said before, it's a lot of other industries that are coming to us. I have a dear friend of mine that has a great charity that she was asking me because, of course, she and her husband were looking at my avatar and my world, and the fact that I've been posting all about this in my social media. And so she sort of said, we can't do our fundraiser, obviously, for the charity. And so she sort of said, I wonder if Verbella will work. And she popped in. I gave her a guest pass. She was looking all around at EXP World. She loved it. So I put her in touch with Verbella, and now they're talking because it might be a great platform for them. So you start thinking about other things like charities, like things that aren't going on. And so this is a great, great platform. So it's just going to be a different world that we live in.
It's definitely a different world. And, when we look at Verbella, I'm sure you've already had this question, Michael. Well, Verbella, it's avatars. There's, it's not my real face, and all the different, mentions you might hear as far as people's perception. I believe in having a lot of tools in the tool chest so that we can operate our business in the best possible way. And Verbella in EXP World gives us something that is not existent anywhere else, and that is the spontaneous water cooler chat. Just take this, for example. We all visited the expo at Shareholder Summit, right?
Sure.
How off the charts was the expo and the spontaneous connections that you were making while you were there?
You felt like you were there. You felt like you were in Vegas. I mean, you really did. And it was the idea that you were walking up and down these little things with all the vendor booths. It was just ridiculous. I said to Glenn yesterday, I said, look, it only took Facebook 12 years to catch up to you on avatars. And so now everyone has done their avatar on Facebook. Have you seen this? And so
it's kind of funny.
I know. And then every EXP agent that I've seen has put their Facebook avatar with their EXP avatar, which is such a cute idea. And so just now, when you start thinking about what was foreign so far ago, right? And I said, Glenn, you were such a visionary. And so what was so foreign, the idea of let's create an avatar, that's crazy. And so now everyone is just because it's becoming commonplace now. And I love that. That's great. That's far more acceptance to our story, because what's also great is that we have exclusivity on it because we bought the company. So there's no other company that's going to be out there doing the same thing. So it's our own messaging that's out into the world now.
Well, and it gives us a head start. Anything we're doing, we seem to be ahead of the game. So it's everybody else coming and following and mimicking. And I think we're going to see more of that. But again, to your point, this is not something that just came up. This is something we've been working on, or Glenn's been working on for 10 years. So anything we roll out, we're ahead of everybody else.
And it's funny, Elizabeth, it started at mocking. So it went from mocking to mimicking, right? And
absolutely.
And so as they always sort of say, it's like we're the ones having the last laugh because it's a model that worked. It was a message that worked, and it was a conversation that was important. And then when the right audience came to the conversation, it changed people's lives.
It sure has. I'd like to dive in a little bit deeper on international growth, Michael, since that's going to be a lot of excitement going on here.
Yes.
You've mentioned some potential countries maybe, but again, what does it look like? How is EXP going to position itself in many countries that may even operate real estate very differently than we do in the US and Canada?
Listen, we are already changing the platform in a lot of the countries that we're in. I'll take the United Kingdom, for example. A United Kingdom platform for real estate was usually where someone was on a salaried employee, a lower base salary, and they shared a portion of the commission for anything that was done. And the commission rate in the United Kingdom is very low. It's about 1%. And that's really the way that business is conducted. So to come back and switch that on everyone and say, we're going to focus on the agent. The agent is the one who's going to make the majority of the commission. The agent is the one who's going to be the brand, not the brands that have existed already. And we're going to support you to make that happen. That has been a very, very interesting thing that has happened. And that is a phenomenal type of changing of the atmosphere there. Angela just asked about Scotland and that box. And Scotland is, I'm speaking with Scotland, I'm speaking with Ireland. And here's what I always say to your viewers and part of the EXP family. If there are opportunities that you would like me to look at, I am happy to do so. Now, when I say opportunities, because we are growing a brand, it will not be one-offs. It won't be an agent that's a friend of yours in Scotland that's doing a great job. I'm looking for
Yeah.
critical mass first. I need to build the story. So I need to find either a group of agents, an interesting team, an independent broker. That's really where we want to have critical mass, because we're going to have some expenses up front. We need to form a corporation. We need to get our legal entity anywhere that we're coming into. But I still have a very aggressive rollout here. I'm having conversations with no less than 20 countries right now. And so we are looking at opportunities that are very viable and very strong to get into my bucket of 20. And so those that are still in the environs are still happy to look at. If opportunities develop, I'm happy to sort of shift around and move things up and down as needed.
Well, and what's really interesting too is when we had the US and then we branched into Canada. I mean, that was trying to figure it out slowly.
Sure.
Right? And then we went across, we were in parts of Canada, but we weren't in all of Canada. And then we went into provinces. It seems to me that then we went in the UK and Australia so much easier and smoother, even though the countries are different in how they do real estate. We're learning as we go, but we're taking those lessons, if you will, and we're implementing it. And it seems like things have been a lot smoother. Now, maybe everybody behind the scenes is just making it look that way, but would you agree to that as we're branching into the different countries? Is it?
So I think, and I think yes, I would agree with that. And I think what's also going to be coming in is that I'm bringing in other tools to this conversation. So we're looking at language simplification. We're looking at other back office simplification as we go in, and other technology that we'll be able to use. And so we're advancing those talks as well, so that it would allow my aggressive schedule to be online. So so there's a lot more of this that will be automated, and language will be huge for us to be able to do the language capabilities coming into it. So that's one of my key my key sort of goals, which we're working on very diligently right now. So we're going to be having a lot of the conversations have advanced, and they're going to advance much quicker next week. So we'll see where things are going. So I keep dropping these little teasers for you.
Yeah, I love it.
You're leaving us with lots of teasers.
I know, it's great.
So we're here talking about leadership, right?
I'll come back on
What's that?
You got to have the wow effect. Yeah. I'm gonna come back on your show and announce things as we get closer.
Oh, you too. You definitely need to do that, because it's so fun when we're in our virtual campus and you're interacting with people, and I'm meeting people from Florida and Oregon and Virginia, and then all of a sudden I'm bumping into somebody from the UK or a Canadian, and I mean it's I've got global friends, I've got global relationships, and not only is it the relationships, but the referrals, y'all. I mean, I could just pop into Canada, sitting in Austin, and teach a class. And the relationships and referrals I'm receiving from this company and this platform internationally never happened before, right? And so it's really, really cool. But we want you to come back and announce things when you're able to, because we want to celebrate those successes alongside with you.
And listen, and I make a lot of noise. You can sort of see that already. And sort of like people will all know. And I'm also going to be, for your EXP agent audience, I will also be doing monthly meetings. And so I'll be doing monthly meetings about international. So I'm going to be letting people know what I'm working on, what I'm doing, and allowing a platform for them to really communicate with me and talk about ideas and things that they want me to consider. And we'll talk about the strategy, because it really is, in my heart, we're growing this together. And we really want that to be the message. And I'd also want this to be its own identity, so that we grow quicker. So we introduced an EXP global logo during the summit, which was really exciting. We're building a website right now, which will be an EXP global website. So that will be where people will find out information about what we're doing. People will find out if they have opportunities that they want to explore. There'll be people there. There'll be a form there that they can fill out as to what the opportunity is, and we'll look at those opportunities. So and that's for everyone. That's for inside EXP, and that's for the whole world. So if there's someone that's sitting in Paris or in Moscow or whatever the case might be that is interested in the EXP model, they can just go to that website. And I'm not giving the address out yet, because we're trying to get another website. But I will announce it soon. And we'll know by next week what the domain is. But we're trying to get actually a much better domain that Glenn actually put on the table yesterday. So we're going to get this stuff together, but by next week, or we should have a website up.
Well, I love I like your leadership style. I love the fact that you're planning monthly meetings and you have all these things that you're planning on doing, because not only does it keep us all informed, but I also think it controls the message and the story, so we're consistent.
Yes.
Because I think that's a lot of the questions we get. I know Renee and I get. Everybody's story is different. We've got a compelling, amazing story, but they're like little ants in all different directions. So when you're able to launch that and bring everybody in to ask questions or share what's going on, that story is going to be consistent, which is going to make us a lot stronger in the long run.
That's exactly right. And that's very true. It is the idea that there is that, and there's a great strength in that. There's great strength of having one message and 29,000 ambassadors, right? Yeah. That is a very strong way to get a message across.
Well, that goes back to the ownership, right? The ownership mindset. Okay,
Absolutely.
Michael, I'm very curious for you to share. Yes. As Elizabeth said, I echo her sentiment. Love your leadership style.
Thank you.
What advice would you give to the real estate leaders of tomorrow?
The advice is to really remember what your why was. Why did you want to get into this in the first place? And I think that is the message that we always have to remember. And it's always back, we've said it a few times here, that it is all about service. And it has to come from that place of service, because otherwise it's not genuine, and everyone feels that. Everyone feels that. And you cannot be self-serving in this industry. You just cannot. You just can't sit there and count a commission that hasn't happened yet, because that is the worst thing you can do. That's just called desperation, and you're not coming from service. I think that the leadership is just that. Remember, and anyone who leadership to me is a responsibility. It is a sense of making sure that everyone understands that you are there for them. And if you are humbled enough to be in a position of leadership, you have a great responsibility for those that are looking to you for that guidance. And that guidance needs to be reciprocated by understanding what their why is and what motivates them, because that's the only way you can ever motivate somebody.
Such an important reminder.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Everybody has a story, has their reason, but we can all come together and create a story that's super powerful.
And we always learn. I think that the greatest mentors are the ones that are still mentees. And you always have to have your own teachers too. Right. And so it's sort of like, it's always like you always want to still be the student.
Forever.
Learning forever. You never want to stop.
Forever.
Absolutely.
We have 2 hot seat questions for you before we wrap. You better hold on to your seat, because this is challenging.
Let's do it.
All right, the first one.
Michael's ready to go.
Wait, can I plead the fifth? How does that game go?
No. Don't worry, you're not going to need that.
Okay.
All right, I'll go for the first one. The first one is a very common hashtag that we use here as EXP Realty agents is hashtag EXP Realty Proud. Michael, what are you the most EXP Realty proud of?
Being part of this family, being here. And I said that before, and I said it yesterday. I actually said it earlier this week at the agent meeting. It was the fact that everyone made me feel as though I was part of this family in less than 2 weeks. And it was, you did it in the first day, but it's really that sense of everyone. I was been bombarded with welcome messages, when I was on the stage giving my presentation at the summit, the amount of love that was in the chat box, I was new to everyone. It was just the idea. The press release had gone out the day before, but it was just like, nobody knew who I was. And there was that sense of just pure love, the idea of it just being the family. That's what I've been so appreciative of and humbled about, and I've been so thankful.
Well, and it's only been a couple of weeks. Just hold on to your.
I know. Wait, just think about what my presentation is going to be in November. Hopefully, we'll all be in person there.
Right.
Presentation. I'm going to do the 6-month look back. We're going to play this at the introduction, and then we'll go into my.
And then we'll get to meet you face to face. But that's what's
right.
What's crazy about this model that was surprising to me was, we're all virtual, we're all doing our thing, and then when you get to meet people face to face, I'm like, oh wait, we've never really met before. I mean, it's really bizarre. You feel like you've known everybody forever. You recognize people's voices. It's the craziest thing. Yeah. So we're excited to actually, I feel like with all of the engagement we've had with you over shareholders and just even now, I feel like we've known you forever. And again, I keep reminding myself, you've only been on board for 2 weeks. So we've
never really met, right? I feel the same thing. That's what's so weird. Like, I really do feel like we've known each other a long time. This is bizarre.
I love it.
You are, hey, by the way, you're home.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Welcome home. Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. So last question, because I know you were pulled in a million different directions, but we would really love to know, what does leadership from the heart mean to you?
Leadership from the heart. That is, that's really what we've all embodied. I think it really is being able to lead with dignity and with humility, and really make sure that everything that we are doing affects other people. We don't operate in a vacuum. It's the idea that now, I've been given the immense responsibility of growing a brand that you all have had in your stewardship for such a long time. And I don't take that responsibility lightly. I just sort of see this as a little toddler who's now in 3 countries. And I am going to make sure that we get them through adolescence and the teenage years and off to school and college and beyond, and make this be a something that we can all be proud of. And that is something that's going to be giving a healthy foundation for what we're doing. So it all has to be from a sense of humility and making sure that we all are part of that community.
We are so fortunate to have you.
I'm the fortunate one.
At home. Seriously, we have amazing leadership, and every time we think, oh my gosh, we couldn't do any better, then we bring in somebody else that's not better, but just enhances what we already have, right? You really all complement each other. And as you've been getting to know leadership, you really all complement each other. And that just means we don't have to worry about it. We can just focus on our business. We just know we're in great hands, and the sky's the limit for all of us. So we are so beyond thrilled that you're a part of EXP now.
Elizabeth, thank you. Renee, thank you. Thank you both for this invitation. It really has been humbling. I love it. I love that sense of community and love that you've all sort of done. And, and you're right, Renee, I am home.
Yeah.
Thank you for leading with your heart. And Elizabeth and I always want you all to know that I can speak on both of our behalfs. I think, Elizabeth, that there's anything we can ever do to help you and help the company. You have our full support in any way.
And likewise, as you grow your business and continue to affect those in your community that you do so well already. Thank you for the opportunity.
Have a great afternoon, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.